Good evening. Welcome to the Thursday, April 3rd, 2025 Board of School Directors Committee meeting. I'm going to call the meeting to order and ask everyone to please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The roll call, please.
Emily Evans,
Here.
Sharon Geibel,
Here.
Monica Grunegal. Here. Jim Hatt. Jen Hill.
Here.
Gerald Inman.
Here.
Michelle Michia here. Leslie Rizzi.
Here.
John Tapko.
We have a quorum and can proceed.
Before we move forward, I just wanted to let the board know that we received thank you notes from the Sircone family. So if you would like to look at them later, they are up here for you.
Thank you, Michelle. Mrs. Hill, Public and Community Relations.
Yes. Per Board Policy 903, public comment in board meetings, members of the public must preface their comments with their name, municipality, and group affiliation, if appropriate. All comments should be addressed to the presiding officer and be relevant to agenda items or matters which may come before the board. Required timelines must be observed. Prior formal request, 10 minutes. Informal request, 5 minutes. Is there anyone who wishes to speak? Okay, thank you.
We'll move to athletics. Ms. Rizzi.
Yes. Item number 1, purchase of new uniforms by the softball boosters for discussion, and you had 2 file attachments to the agenda. And I just had a couple of questions for Mr. Badamo. There,
Could you just give an explanation of the board what that is, like how this came about? I believe it was that the softball boosters purchased some uniforms
yes,
for the team.
the softball boosters purchased shirts, just shirts for middle school and high school girls. Mr. Badamo could probably better explain how that all came about.
That's okay. I mean, just so everyone knows what we're discussing, that's fine. If you want to ask your questions, he can answer them, or however you want to do it.
Okay. Do you just want me to explain how we got to this point?
Yeah.
Okay, so I met with the coaches in January, just a standard, hey, whatever you need uniform-wise. We, Coach Borowski and Coach Reiholt, they were there, along with the baseball coach. We needed to replace anything. And then I was approached at several month and a half later about purchasing a different color pant, and come to find out that the boosters had purchased softball tops. And basically, I denied them using them because they're not school issued, and that's how we got to this point.
Okay, so you had a meeting and so the coaches were aware that there was a school policy regarding the purchase of uniforms, correct?
Right, they know, and they know that the pants, because Coach and I talked about that, what we needed, the red piping and everything, yep.
Okay, so just so everyone is aware, this is an administration decision and not a board decision,
Yeah,
so,
I didn't know anything about purchasing these uniforms.
okay.
And the uniforms have names on the back, correct?
Yes, they have names on the
Do we
back.
have any other of our sports that have uniforms on the back?
None.
Because we can't sustain that.
Right, according to the way we do things here, we put our uniforms in a 5-year rotation, and they moved on from the high school to the middle school, and we need to keep the uniforms without any names or anything on the back, because, we're handing them down, and kids grow, and it changes sizes and everything else, and that's why we do that. When you put the name on the back, it makes it more personalized, and we can't pass it down to another, and if, say, we had to pass it off to another athlete, we couldn't do that. That's why, what the policy is, I guess what the policy is.
Okay. And I assume that it wasn't brought to you regarding the design or anything ahead of time either?
I didn't design these or anything,
No,
no.
okay. Any other questions?
One question. Did the coaches know that the boosters were buying these?
Yes,
They did?
yes.
And they knew the policy?
Well, the coaches knew that the boosters had purchased,
Okay,
and then they
well,
approached me
Then
with
there
it.
you go.
Okay. Any more questions for Mr. Badamo regarding that? Moving on to item number 2, the Athletic Director's Monthly Report. Mr. Badamo?
Okay, for this first week of April, we've had a ton of rain, so we've moved a lot of games this week. We've only actually had the opportunity to play one game, and by the looks of things, we're not going to be able to play anything tomorrow. So we've been updating our webpage as quickly, as fast as we can. We were able to get out twice with the track, so those stayed on the schedule. Middle school volleyball wrapped up their season yesterday, and they're playing in a tournament this weekend over at Central Valley. It's the first time we've done this, but we just want to give it a run and see how it goes. Varsity baseball, they're 3-3, 2-1 in the section. They rained out all week as well. Hopefully, we're hoping to get a game in tomorrow, but not looking good. Varsity softball's 0-3 and 0-1 in the section. They're scheduled for a doubleheader tomorrow in the section. Varsity track and field, we competed yesterday for first section play. The girls come out 2-1. We beat Rochester and Southside, lost to Olsh. The boys beat Rochester and lost to Southside and Olsh. Middle school baseball, they've had one game. They just can't get them in. It's just the weather. And middle school softball, I believe they have one game, and they got their games moved around too. So they'll have a couple games coming up next week, hopefully. Other than that, Coach O'Leary, he got his 100th win, and then he was able to back that up with his 101 win. So if we can ever get him back out on the field, maybe we can collect a few more there. I believe it's 16. Any corrections?
Yeah, well,
Yep.
just another question. So, just so I'm clear, they knew, they didn't tell you, you were not aware that they were buying the new uniforms?
I did not know they were buying the uniforms.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So I just so clear. Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions for Mr. Badamo? Thank you, Mr. Badamo.
Thank you.
Superintendent's report, Ms. Workman?
Thank you, Ms. Geibel. This week, staff throughout the district showed their support for individuals with autism by promoting an inclusive, loving, and compassionate community at all 3 schools. It sort of was a spirit week. Kids wore pajamas one day. They brought stuffies in another day. They wore funny hats, all to support the unique characteristics of our students with autism. So I thank them for that. I'd like to congratulate Lainey Tazinski and Calla Reynolds, who placed first in the Pennsylvania Journalism Competition State Finals this week. As editor-in-chief of the high school yearbook, Lainey took first place in the yearbook spread design category, and Calla was first in the newspaper news writing category. And in order to participate in the state competition, the students had to first take first place in the regional competition, and that was held at Slippery Rock, I believe, in November. And I'd like to invite all of our state competitors to a board meeting in May to be recognized by the board, so we'll pull that together. And on to the agenda. Discussion on the request for a monthly report of teacher absences, professional development, and substitutes. I know the board knows that I've been compiling a monthly summary of the number of teachers who are absent during the month and subs are available, and which subs are available. This has been taking me up to 2 hours each month to compile. The secretaries do send their list of teacher absences and who has had a sub. But I would like to hear from the board if they feel this report is useful to them, what is the purpose of the monthly report, and whether or not the board would like it to continue. It is only on for discussion this week. So if we could, just so I could get some feedback as to make sure I am fulfilling the purpose of this report.
regarding that would be, does that report benefit you and the administration to have compiled for
I-
information on when we don't have enough coverage, when we don't have enough subs, whether we need to increase rate for subs because we can't get them? How do you and the administration determine that without a report monthly?
I receive a daily report district-wide, and the principals receive a report daily of, in their buildings, of the teachers who are out, or actually any of the classroom staff, instructional staff who are out, and whether or not a sub has been assigned. The difference is that sometimes the secretaries will move subs around, so a sub may choose to accept, say, an art teacher absence, but then the secretaries might move that sub to an English language arts absent. So they do send their monthly report to payroll, and I get a copy of it also. So those two reports are what is helpful to me. Compiling all the information is not as important as this.
Other questions or comments?
I do. I'm just curious as to why that wouldn't be helpful to the administration to be able to see that on a monthly level as well as a district level and even a yearly level, to see where any kind of issues may arise with substitutes. I know in the last report that you gave us, it was a little bit more detailed, which was great for me, but apparently it might be taking a little bit more time with professional development days. And, you know, if subs were needed, which I still have some issues, I wasn't really clear on it. Nothing that you probably did wrong. It's just I'm not sure of how to look at it. But I would hope that that is something that you guys could look at on a monthly, yearly basis to see if we have some trends. Do we have some issues on even certain days of the week that we might have a lot of call-offs and where we would need to have? To me, that is extremely important to run a district, to be able to have all that information to pull together. So I'm kind of curious as to, if you're saying it's just looked at on a daily basis and it's just being sent to payroll on a monthly basis, are you saying that nobody looks at this in this much detail monthly?
Not to the detail that I have given to you in the past. We look at it daily. We see patterns. I see frequent absences. I will often ask principals, is something up with this teacher? I notice that he or she has been out for a few days. They explain to me what the absence is related to. I do run absence reports. If I have a question, I do run absence reports. I've learned to do that from ProSoft, and I can see in more detail. But to compile the information that I have been sharing with you all, it's almost, the daily information is much better for me and more effective for me in tracking the positives and where I may have concerns.
So, okay, just to reiterate, so nobody's looking at this on a monthly level, but you do get a report daily from the secretaries in each building.
Yes.
Is it giving you names and information like that? Like, I don't want you spending 2 hours on this, obviously.
It is giving me names. The daily report gives me names
Okay.
and the reason that they are. That
Is
the
it easy
individual is
for
out
the
sick.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead. I didn't know you were still talking. I can barely
Daily
hear you.
report gives me the name, the reason they're out sick, and whether it's a half day or full day.
Okay.
Or it could be an hour in the morning.
So is it simple for the secretaries to be able to just track the number if they already have the information and just be able to track it on a monthly basis instead of you doing it?
Well, they provide a list of the teacher and the absence and the coverage, or whether or not there was a sub or it was covered by teachers within the building.
Right. So that's my question. Like, wouldn't that be very easy for them to just add it up in an Excel spreadsheet and say, this is the number of people? Yeah. For each
Well,
building?
you wouldn't get the detail that I have given it to you.
Well, this is the first month that you've given us this much detail. I mean, prior to that, we haven't asked for that much detail. I
Right.
think and I appreciate this, but if that's what's causing an issue.
Well, your recent request went to all absences versus just those out for professional development.
Right, which I think is important because I would think to run a district, we would want to know how many people are out, how many subs we needed, how many were able to fill that, how many comp days were used, how many professional development days. Like, this is all important information I would think that you would want to have on a monthly basis. So that's my question. Can the secretaries do it from each building and compile it, even maybe send it to Carol and have her just compile all three into one document so you don't have to do it? I mean, it sounds like the information is all there.
Are you saying that in-depth of report, or just a report that says we had 30 absences this month and 30 subs?
Well, I like this, but I don't want her spending 2 hours on it. So
that's what I'm asking for clarification.
So, okay,
on what
but
you're
if she could give the
saying.
number of subs, how many people were out on comp, they should know all that information because you would have to have it. So I would think that would be easy to compile.
But again, the daily reports provide the information that I feel we need. The daily reports that we get from the subservice.
So you're asking us if we like the report, is that? So when I look, I don't know that might be a little bit too detailed, but not that I don't like details. But for me, when I'm looking at that report, my main focus is, because we're approving student travel, staff travel. So to know if that ever becomes maybe not so appropriate because we have too many teachers out of a classroom and we don't have subs, things like that, sub shortage issues. That's what I pull from that information, like personally. So I do like having that because we need to have a constant look at that.
And I guess that would help if I understood the purpose and what you are looking at.
Well,
and
Okay.
I think the purpose started with, do we have a sub problem? And then
And we were told
I
no.
think we were told no. We didn't have a problem getting substitutes. And then we later found out that we are having a problem getting substitutes. And certainly our teachers work hard in our buildings every day. And when they're having to give up their lunchtime or their planning time for coverage because we don't have substitutes, that's when it also became a concern for us. And we think that would be a concern for administration as well. And that led into the conversation of professional development days and letting people out for that, because if we can't get sub coverage, why are we doing that? And that's why it expanded, because of the concern for, do we have enough sub coverage? Are teachers having to give up their time to cover? And does the board need to resolve the sub issue, a conversation of increasing rates or something to attempt to solve that problem? And if we aren't giving that information, then we can't help in that. And we hear from staff that we have a substitute problem.
Well, and I guess I look at, when I answered that question, I've been in this business 44 years and 10 months. And our there's been a problem since the day I started. You never have enough subs to cover a building when teachers are out. So I think it's a sub problem across the nation. It is very difficult to get subs. Now, this past couple of weeks, we have actually approved, I believe it's 3 or 4 new subs through ESS. I do see some new names on our daily reports. ESS is working very diligently with us. I have spoken with superintendents in other districts, and their issues are the same as ours. There's a neighboring district that pays a lot more than we do for subs. They still don't have enough. So is there a sub problem across the nation? Yes. Is raising the pay, I mean, I would love everyone in our district to have an increase in pay, but, so what I'm saying, please don't take it wrong that I don't think subs need an increase in pay. I think an increase in pay would help. Will it help us get additional subs? I'm not sure.
so that's why, that's another reason that we have to really watch when we're sending teachers out. If we can't sub it, and if it's a nationwide problem, we all get that. But that means that we got to cut it down, because the teacher, to me, is most invaluable in the classroom. And I get, you're going to say that, teacher improvement, but there's other ways, I think, to do that. I'm going to give you an example. Next week on the agenda, you have for the art club to take out during the day to go to
An art museum.
yeah. So is that, to me, it's a club, should be doing after school or on a Saturday or whatever. So we're gonna, and I don't even know how many kids are there. It says, well, you're gonna take a van if appropriate. So if you'd have more kids and you gotta take a bus, does that mean you're gonna come back and say, well, we had to send a bus? So all that stuff, that is not, it is a club and I get it, but it's all part of the aspect of looking at it. And everybody, and the principals, you got to look at your building. If you're having a sub problem, you got to look at that, and maybe you have to tell people, no, we don't want to, but tell me does anybody agree that having teachers out and not having subs is good for our kids in the educational system? Raise your hand if you think that's good, because I'd like to see it. Huh? So that's all I'm saying. I mean, this is a discussion. We can go into whatever you want to do, and if some people disagree, that's fine. But it's,
And my point is, if there's a purpose for the board to utilize this report, I'm happy to keep doing it. If there's not a specific purpose, then I don't want to continue to do it because the information I need, we get from our daily reports, and I do read those through every day.
I personally don't need the in-depth report. I personally don't need a report. I just need to make sure you and the administration are looking at making sure, which is the board's job, that our students are being educated face-to-face with teachers.
Absolutely.
If I could just add, I think that's kind of why, I know, Sharon, you had said why we started this conversation, but at the beginning of the year, that was exactly my concern. Was we have several people. Now, remember, we have teachers that obviously are entitled to their time off, absolutely deserve it. They are entitled to it. They can take it. But then we had other issues, like Mr. Inman said, with professional development and, other events that they had to do. And that was my question to you with not having subs is, even if we have a sub or if a teacher has to cover a class, are we educating our students? And whenever we started asking additional questions as far as, how many teachers have to cover and the number, we understand that this year was an anomaly, but the number was very high. So my understanding, and again, this is nothing against substitute teachers or teachers that cover. Most instances, you do not have a substitute that can cover a class and teach it in its entirety. It's mostly, just even from my own personal experience with my children and other people that I've talked to, it is mostly packets of work, movies, and such. That is not educating our students. So when I started asking this, my hope was that the administration was going to look at it as a whole and say, oh, maybe we do have a problem. But if you're saying, even though you're pulling the information together, you're really not looking at it, that's actually an even bigger concern of mine, because I would hope that looking at these numbers, it's a little bit telling as to what we're doing for each month. So it's actually a concern. Now, I use it. I'm a data person. I love looking at the data. I'm actually hoping that by somebody doing it, somebody else is also looking at it. And from what you're saying, you're just looking at it on a daily level, which I don't really see how that is extremely helpful, but that's your decision to make. I personally still want the information, so, because I just want to make sure somebody's looking at it.
What's difficult about the monthly is that there were absences that were 0.125% of the day. So that means that maybe a teacher had a doctor's appointment at the end of the day, and of course, we would not have a sub for that. We would cover within the building. There was a couple of instances like that. So for us to look at the daily absentee rate and where the subs are is more beneficial to me than looking back at the complete month. We do talk about absences. We do talk about who's going out. I have been analyzing. I run sick leave reports, absence reports from ProSoft. Do I do it on a monthly basis? No. I do it when I have a question or when a question comes up from you all. I know there's a concern that teachers use all of their sick days. For this past year, there were 2 teachers who started their year without any sick days. Every other teacher carried a bank of days over. We've got, teachers who have young children and they get sick and they have to be at home. So yes, we do monitor. I wrote in last week, we did deny a professional development request. So we are looking at them, and I will continue. I'll start being more vocal about when we deny requests, because we do deny requests.
Can I ask you a question about the report that you did give us this month, please? When you have on here employee absences, for instance, in the elementary school, total there was 197 across all 3 districts, or all 3 schools in the month of February, which was a very short month. It was only 19 days. You had 76 employees, which that sounds like a lot, but it's really not in the grand scheme of things. It says teachers needing subs was 45. What happened to the other 31 that didn't? So can you explain that? Because I don't understand where that number
Some
came
were
from.
guidance counselors, some were paraprofessionals.
Okay, so in the employee absences, that's total employees. That's not just teachers.
Correct.
Okay. So teachers, so then that number is much lower. So 45. You have teacher vacancies in the elementary school at 3. What teachers do we have vacant in the elementary school?
We had a special education teacher vacancy.
But that was filled.
It was 3 days. It wasn't 3 teachers. It was 3 days.
Okay, so these numbers are days or teachers?
They were days.
So when it says teachers needing subs 45, that's days, not
Yes.
teachers. Okay.
Yes.
And then no subs needed was 6. Professional development was 6. Comp days. What's this para vacancy? We have 10 para vacancies in the elementary school? Or
10
10
days.
days, I'm sorry. Okay, 10 days.
Yes.
So when you say vacancy, does that mean that we don't have a para to fill it? Like we don't have enough paras?
Yes.
Okay. Is that an open position that we're trying to fill if we have a vacancy?
Yes, it is.
And who's that through? Is that through our agency?
Yes, through the agency.
Okay. Okay. So employee absences is the total number in the building. It could be, you said guidance counselors, anybody.
Yes.
Okay. I'm not sure, where are you pulling that number from then? Because it wouldn't be from the daily report, because you don't need to know if guidance counselors are out, right?
No, guidance all of our instructional staff have to report through ASOP their absences, and that gets reported on the daily report. And yes, I do want to see when our counselors and our paras are out.
Okay. Okay. I think that's all my questions then. So,
Was there anyone else who wants the report to continue, or how do you want to handle that? Just, I spoke my opinion, Monica spoke hers. You can agree or disagree with one of us, but so we can give direction.
I'll just say that I think it is helpful to track trends and stuff, but Mr. Deal, I know that you're going to be doing a presentation, your eyes pop up, AI. And so I am wondering, especially with how time consuming and things like that are, if we can maybe use Copilot or something like that, where something where we make artificial intelligence do some of the work for us to kind of calculate how many days were used for professional development and things like that that alleviate any manual work that's being done for it. That might be helpful to see how it can help administration and tracking and things like that. I think it is helpful to have some insight, but as far as that in depth, that doesn't really matter to me. But I think that something like that might be able to achieve our goals and not be so manual and time consuming and add value. Like, is there somebody who does the top professional development? Is there somebody that's always getting professional development, someone else isn't? That also can help spot different trends too, with who maybe needs to get some development, who might need more time in the classroom, that kind of thing. But I think that we could challenge ourselves to look at different ways to get data, and artificial intelligence might be the way to do it. So.
And the daily report does tell me when teachers are out on professional development, so I do keep track, and I do look at who is absent frequently, who goes to professional development frequently. And we do not have a lot of people, we have not approved many teachers to go out on multiple days for professional development during the year, unless it was very specific training that they needed.
Thank you. And just for clarification, I didn't mean that you weren't, but just how quickly. I mean, then you can double check it, but it's amazing how quickly it can compile that data for you in a couple of minutes. You're like, have all of these different metrics to kind of consider. So that's all, because I know that you are, but if something can make it more.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Do we want the report to continue or not continue?
Yes, it is. And then when the secretaries send the monthly, that's when I can see when the long-term sub, yes. And that's another advantage because you have just recently gotten another building sub.
Yeah. Well,
And actually, she was free yesterday, I believe.
you know, we tend to be a data-driven district here, as I know that that's what we get a lot. So I see no different than this, is requesting this is data-driven to answer our needs. So, and again, I'll say you have a confidential assistant. It's available to you to help you out on different things that you have to instruct people to do and to be accountable to you.
And certainly, if someone has a question, I'm more than happy to answer that.
Is there anyone else that would like the report to continue? Anyone?
Well, like I said, just a very basic, I mean, I like seeing the numbers since we're doing the approvals, and I don't want to get blindsided by a sub issue when I can't see it monthly myself. I just feel like I am more with it.
Okay, we'll make sure you have clarification on exactly what they would want in that report.
Okay, thank you.
Finance Committee, Mr. Inman?
The finances, the CTC budget, I think you all got a copy of that. Diane, I asked her and she followed up with, I think the most important thing about it is the tuition, what it means to us, because the budget did go up 7-point-some%. But so actually this year we're paying approximately, and somebody can correct me if I'm wrong here, is $7,522 per student at the CTC. Next year, based on an anticipation of school-wide 750 kids, that tuition will be $7,371.33. So that is going to be actually a reduction. Now, that is all based on a number of kids you send. So if we send 44, if we said more, obviously our total package is going to be more, but it's going to be billed at that lower rate. And if somebody, so it works with that. So that's what drives that. And the main reason that part of the main reason is Governor Shapiro gave more money for the CTCs last year in the budget. And so that took the burden off of local school districts somewhat. And so we'll actually be paying what appears to be a decrease. But that's all, about the number of kids. So if you had 800 kids going, then the tuition rate would probably go down some more yet. Now, if you had 600 going, then that tuition rate's going up. So, but it's been holding, it's been around 742, 750, and even before it starts the year early, and sometimes kids drop out. So they anticipate it looking much higher than 750, but we won't know that until I think come May or just toward the end of school, and then the kids will, and then they'll have that figure. But we can't wait to send that out. So that's sort of where that's at. And again, if you have any other questions, their hospitalization rates went up 19%. I know Laura sent in the thing; it was 18%, but I think it's a miss. But whatever, 18, 19, it's still very close to being so. And then you have your raises and your different things that's built into that. So again, if anybody got any questions, they can either email me or text me, call me. But that looking at this budget, we worked on it, and there's not a lot of wiggle room in that budget that I can see at this point. And then the next is Mr. Lentz, I guess, correct?
Just a little bit. Look at. Okay, I don't know why it's. Okay, so I'm going to give an update on the preliminary budget, and I think I can fix that. So not a lot has changed because there hasn't really been any movement from the state in particular, which is one of the largest driving revenues in the budget as proposed. There is, in fact, a couple statewide in-depth presentations that are taking place in 2 weeks regarding budget and changes. There's still some uncertainty about charter reimbursement in particular, also the cyber charter rate that will be what's paid by the district for students who are placed in cyber schools. Also, there is not a release of amounts that would be PCCD funds that would be provided to the district for safety, security, and mental health. We did adjust the proposed expenditures from the prior budget. We've replaced and adjusted them to reflect additional costs and data for students and I'll talk about that when we look at expenditures. So for revenue, year-over-year comparison, as built in this budget, the tax increase is projected to be the Act 1 index at this point in time. In part, we are continuing to work through various staffing costs that remain uncertain in the budget related to final salaries. Also, we got our benefit costs finally from the trust. Those have gone up 13%. And other revenues, as you see, state revenues are significantly projected to change. Some of these tie to what you're going to spend on PSERS and Social Security, because you will be reimbursed for a portion of those from the state. So until you have where final salary dollars are, I can't calculate those percentages off of those for those reimbursement amounts. I spoke about the uncertainties with regards to state revenues, and local at this point would be the Act 1 index tax increase for the district. Yep. Yeah, as far as a dollar number based upon the distribution of local revenues and the fact of where your taxes have been collected from last year with that, assuming that same collection rate. The other thing to consider is assessments, but as an overall dollar of what that drives within the budget, it's about $500,000 or so. Roughly, yeah, if you want. Yep. When we look at expenditures, the biggest drivers are salaries. And again, the district is currently continuing positions that were put in place under ESSER. The ESSER funding is gone. And the biggest piece that is continuing to cover a lot of positions, as well as support services that are people that are serving students, but they are through contractors, is the Ready to Learn block grant. And that's the biggest item that still is uncertain, but is a projected large increase if the governor's budget passes for the district. So your first transfer of the ESSER was really this year, 24-25, for that, because if we go back to the federal revenues, you can see that your budgets are the same. And so you really didn't budget ESSER funds for that. So this was really that first year. But now you have salary increases, benefit changes that have had to those, so those stay in the budget. Any other position changes that may be on the table for the board to consider related to the composition of salaries gets absorbed off of Ready to Learn or the tax increase. There isn't those additional funds to draw down on from prior years. The federal funding now rests at being title funds, IDEA, as well as access, which we've really been very successful at building up this year. Benefits, we received confirmation on our health insurance with the consortium as a 13% increase. That's driven by the prescription plan. That increase could change and be reduced if the district implemented changes related to the benefit design and program, in particular related to pharmaceutical costs. Then a number of districts are looking at that. The PSERS rate remains at 34%. So again, you get half of that back from the state for revenues, which is so 34 cents of every dollar, which is why, as of right now, this early, not knowing even turnover of positions and retirements and such, that that revenue that offsets that is a moving target of a calculation based upon those salaries that are in the budget. Additional drivers that are just ahead that we're working on resolving for expenditures. Our final numbers, of course, always, I think, up to when we approve the budget, can change related to special education and pupil placement costs. Ms. Workman and I had a meeting about our property insurance renewal. We were told, based upon nothing that is specific to us as a district, but just the marketplace, to expect, I think we were told at least a 10% increase on that, if not higher, and that we talked through, and they said that with no bad experience or no negatives, like that is the normal that they're seeing. They're seeing much higher for schools that have had additional claims, there. Our own cyber school program has an increase of 3% in costs, and there's, as we spoke last time, additional facilities costs related to utilities, trash, and disposal that are in the budget, but we're also looking at potentially what can be done with regards to your actual utility rates, and I'm looking at options to bring back to look at market timing so that there's some more certainty on those, and that you are getting rates that aren't the rack rates. So kind of similar to, you don't have to take your home necessarily for your utilities. The rate from the utility company, you can shop around. We would be able to do that, be part of a consortium that other districts in the county and in this part of the state are part of, and that could give you some instant decreased savings related to that as a district. And then other factors with regards to the facilities budget, looking at where we end this year and what is on the table for next year that's included in there. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's you have the ability to shop around at this point in time to look at what the best rate option would be. And take any additional questions? Okay, thank you. Oh, sure. I met Lentz. Yeah. Yes, we've met. I've met a lot of you in person. So I met Lentz with EDM, and you've contracted with us to provide your business office management services. So it's great to be here tonight and to meet each of you. Thank you all so much.
Thank you, Mr. Lentz, again. I think that was our second time here with just a little bit of better overview of the budget. So we'll continue to get in depth with questions that we have. And board members, I do encourage you to reach out to Mr. Inman or myself, and we can compile questions so that we can send to Mr. Lentz ahead of time, that if he's not here in person, we can make sure we have those answers or whatever's needed.
I do want to request that we get like the paper printouts of the budget presentations though in the future, please.
I have it. I'm sending it to you now. Yeah.
All right, good evening, everyone. So I have a fairly brief, truncated presentation for you tonight, but wanted to give you sort of an update on where we stand now, kind of at the close of Q3 of the school year. So again, taking kind of the large view here, we're looking at that center arrow of our mission and vision. So we've been working through stage one so teachers are typically working through stage one in additional courses that they haven't been working on previously, or they're moving through stage 2 in courses that they had been working on. And that's all driving towards the guaranteed and viable curriculum piece of our arrows, and also looking towards common assessments. So really the expectation that's been shared with all teachers this year is this X+1 concept. So kind of start with wherever you are, and we want to see you through whatever phase you're in by the end of the school year. So that's allowed us to take a pretty individualized approach, and also let teachers kind of choose their path, especially in areas where they're teaching multiple subjects or multiple different courses. So if you look on page 2, this pertains specifically to the high school. So I've tried to present the data in 2 different ways here. So the pie charts at the top are what you're used to seeing. So you can see that we're seeing kind of a movement of colors. Really what I'm looking at is kind of the dark green and the light blue. So we're expecting at this point in the year for those chunks of the pie to be getting larger. So it means we're either moving people through completion of stage 1, or they're moving through beginning stage 2, that assessment stage. Now, to try to give a comparison of how that fits the overall picture, that's why I've included the bar charts at the bottom. So the bar chart at the bottom really kind of says, if we look at the overall high school, what percentage of courses have met these individual thresholds? And here's what I mean by that. We want every bar to get to the 100% line, except for the not begun bar. We want that one to go to 0. So the higher our bar, the better off we're doing. But where in the pie charts, if the class moves, that slice of pie changes. In the bar chart, that doesn't happen. So for example, you look down there, when we get out to the right side of the bar chart, you see we have 3 in progress and 3 complete, those little tiny bars. So credit should be given there to Mr. Wyatrek. He's our first high school teacher that got through stage 3. But his particular course that is stage 3 complete is showing up in every previous bar, because he met the threshold of starting stage 1, he met the threshold of finishing stage 1, met the threshold of starting stage 2, so on and so forth. So I mentioned that there just so you can kind of see how that moves through. If you turn to page 3, then you'll see how the middle school is progressing. So again, the bar or the pie charts at the top represent the 3 quarters that we've been through so far. So in quarter 3, we've seen a pretty significant shift in the number of courses that are moving into stage 2 being in progress. Again, looking at the bar chart at the bottom, that reflects that similarly. And while I thought it was fascinating once I made the bar charts, how consistent the buildings are in sort of the status of the bars. So I thought that was informative as well. And then finally on page 4, you'll see the elementary school. Again, I didn't track their middle of the year data, so this represents quarter 1 to quarter 3, just because the elementary school looks different, just because those teachers are moving together in teams. So it's not nearly as individual as it is in the other schools. So it tends, you see really large chunks moving at a single period of time. So just be aware of that as you look at that data. So then just a few talking points on page 5. At the high school, as you look at those bars, that accounts for 74 courses. So that includes new courses that we added this year or the previous year. So like, for example, last year we added all the freshman rotation courses, those quarter-long courses. So those are included in that number of 74 classes. But like you just approved at the last board meeting 2 months ago, you approved the addition of a new PE course and a new civics course. Those aren't in those numbers yet. Also at the high school, there are 28 what I would call curriculum writing teachers. So not every person that's employed as a teacher is expected to write curriculum. You know, you have special ed teachers and so forth that they're working with others. They're not really writing standalone curriculum. But of those 28, 2 were new to the building this year, 3 were new last year, and 3 of those teachers are shared with the middle school. Now, I mentioned the shared teachers there because most of them are working on a course within one of the buildings, not most of the buildings. So, for example, we have Mr. Bowen teaching Spanish at the high school and teaching Spanish at the middle school. He's working on his middle school courses right now, so that's why you would see a high school course marked as not yet begun. At the middle school, we have 51 courses. That also includes new courses that were added this year. Again, 28 curriculum writing teachers, but 7 of those teachers were new to the building this year. So you had almost 25% of your curriculum writing teachers new to the middle school this year, so that obviously has an impact on our rate of completion. 1 was new to the building last year, and again, 3 are shared with the high school. Elementary, their numbers represent 55 courses overall. I've mentioned this before, but want to mention it again. ELA is broken into 3 separate courses. So even though we're kind of moving through ELA together this year, we view ELA as 3 separate courses: the language comprehension, word recognition, and writing. So those are all sort of working together. So that's why you see such massive pieces of the pie shifting together. And then of the 25 curriculum writing teachers, 1 of them was new to the building this year. So I also shared at the bottom there, you'll just see a little data table there. So this is basically separating by building what I would call what percentage of teachers are on pace, what are teachers that I would call on watch, and who are the teachers who are behind pace. So they're just a little further behind where we would want them to be by this stage in the process. So I wanted to point out, you see percentages like 15%, 4%, 8%. 15% represents about 3 teachers in each of the buildings. When you see 4%, that's 1 person. 8% might be 2 people. One of the areas where we had some challenges trying to get people up to speed a little bit was tech, just because the STEEL standards are so much to wrap your head around. So they were meeting, they were talking, they were working together, but just kind of spinning wheels a little bit. So at our April 16th in-service, we have Susan Emmett coming in from the IU. She's going to be working with our teachers on the STEEL standards to try to create some momentum around that. The teachers there in the middle that watch, those aren't really folks that I'm super concerned about. They're just folks that I'm keeping an eye on. There's lots of legitimate positive reasons that they're not exactly where we want them to be. They're starting to make pretty good progress, but we're just making sure that they have support and kind of keeping an eye out there. So I did meet with Monica and Emily and explain that in a little more detail. So if you want some detail, they can fill you in on some of the finer points there as well. All right, that having been said, what questions do you have about our curriculum update?
I have a couple questions.
Sure.
Thank you. I like the bar graphs. I was able to, and thank you for the explanation.
Sure, certainly.
It was hard to put in an email, but I was trying to understand what the percentage and how they keep moving. So I was able to extrapolate and get the numbers.
Well, and that,
what courses
when I
are.
do this in the future, if you would just rather have numbers rather than percentages, that's easily done.
I think, me personally, it's helpful for me to see, how many
Like
courses
11,
have it.
like
Yeah,
for example,
yeah.
Not Begun is 11 of 74 at the high
Correct.
school.
Right,
Yep.
exactly.
Absolutely.
And like 1 in progress
Mhm.
for the high school is 17.
Sure, absolutely. I
That
can
are
do that.
still in
Mhm.
that process, not have moved on.
Right.
So anyway, but my question is about your on or ahead of pace, your watch. I understand you're saying like watch and behind pace for for instance, for elementary, I'll just use it because it's the first one.
Mhm.
You said they're on or ahead of pace 88%. Watch and behind pace are about 3 people.
Mhm.
What are your metrics for measuring that? Because you're saying like they're on watch, you're not really concerned about them, but they're behind. What are your metrics to measure
So like,
where
how
they
do I
should be?
decide what that moniker is? Like,
Yes.
who do I call watch? Who do I
Yes.
call behind pace? So my watch would be someone like they're closing in on stage 1, like they're getting through stage 1, but I would have thought by now they'd be through stage 1 or into stage 2. So you're a little behind where I would want you to be right now, but you're still making pretty good progress. Whereas behind pace would be like, you're working, I've talked to you, I know that you're thinking, but like you're not getting much on paper yet. You need to start producing some more so I'm comfortable with where you are.
Okay. So that kind of leads to my next question. Like,
Mhm.
what are our expectations for, we had talked about this
Mhm.
in a little bit of detail.
Mhm.
What are your expectations as far as if you have somebody that's on watch or behind pace, are you meeting with them more frequently? Are you giving them, like, I'm looking for deadlines, like hard
Right.
deadlines, like, hey, by the end of Q3, which is just passed, I'm expecting you to do that. I know you said that you're expecting them to move to another level. What are your expectations and how do you give that to them?
So it's very unique and it's very individual to the person. So like, for example, we have one person that, you know, I'm marking them as behind pace. But when I talk to that person, they have, you know, folders and stacks of like, here's what I have. Well, great, you're moving, but I need that online. I need that put into the system. So what do we need to do to get it there? So, you know, for one of those people, it's like, can you and I find a time that we sit down and you show me how to get this in there so I make sure that we do that? Yes, absolutely. You know, another person that's behind pace, hey, I'm struggling with how to understand or interpret these standards. Okay, let me try to get you some additional help or assistance in that so you can work on that. So really, yes, I am meeting and speaking with those people, finding out what it is they need, if it's a need or if it's just a matter of confusion, and then saying, okay, based on that, here's where I would like you to try to move in the interim.
And thank you. And I said this in our meeting because I really like the idea, and I think we've always stressed this as a board. I really like the idea of using like the BVIU, somebody that we can even reach out to and say, hey, can you help us out here? They're there to help us, and why not use them if they're willing to
Susan
do it?
Emmett has been a wonderful resource from the BVIU. You know, I'll give a shout out to Michelle McKinley as well. You know, we're starting the process of the modern U.S. history / civics course. So I put a message out through Michelle to the entire county and kind of said, hey, here's the course that we're looking at. This is what we want to do. Has anyone done this? Does anybody have resources? And I immediately got emails back from another 3 schools in the district that are like, hey, we did this last year. We're happy to compare notes. Beaver Falls sent me an email, one of your history teachers there. I'm sitting in a conference right now and found this great online resource. I'm sending it your way. So there's really been some nice collaborative pieces there as well.
I have not quite so detailed questions, just higher level. How do you define on pace? When are we anticipating completion, not of curriculum? I think we all understand curriculum is an ongoing,
Right.
evolving, it's going to continue for years and years, but this was a curriculum rewrite. I think we started 3 years ago. So what is the anticipated end date? Because to me, that's on pace. Like,
Right.
you're going to meet this end date.
So what I'm really, there's 2 metrics that I really look at. Stage 1 and stage 2. Stage 1 is by far your most difficult and most time-consuming to write. So as we're getting close to 100% of courses in process or complete in stage 1, that's about where we want to be. Stage 2 is the assessment piece. So I'm starting to see about 1/3 of courses move into there, which is where I would expect to be right about now. So in terms of your stage 3 is your actual, what they call the learning plan. That's your day-to-day delivery. That's by far the most fluid part. So that's, yes, it's going to move to completion, but it will also be constantly changing. So my overall goal expectation is that courses that have been on the books, so not the ebb and flow, we added this course, we took away this course, but by and large, our core curricular areas, I would expect that we are through stage 2 in all of those courses by the end of year 5. Based on that mindset, we're very much on pace where we should be. Like, you know, I always talk to like the people from EduPlanet, talk to people that have done this on other districts and say like, hey, here's where we are. Is this about right? And they're typically telling me, yeah, we're pretty well where we should be. Math was the low-hanging fruit to start with. It was a little easier to write than ELA just because it's very linear, it's very logical, it's very sequential. Whereas ELA, it's a whole different bear to write. So that one, we predict and expect that one takes more time. Now, if you look at your middle school, high school, since we tend to be more departmentalized there and teachers are kind of writing individually, that's why you see a little bit more movement in those later those later stages, whereas elementary, most of them haven't touched social studies yet. That's okay, we anticipate that. But in 3rd and 4th grade, where they're semi-departmentalized, they're ready to start looking at steels. They're ready to start looking at science. So we're starting to pick up that pace.
Thank you.
Mr. Deal,
Yes, ma'am.
I'm looking at your teachers who are new to your different buildings. Have you received any feedback from any of them who were able to access what's already been done? And have they expressed good, bad, or indifferent?
It's a little bit of a mixed bag. So at the high school where we had some new folks, they've been able to look at what was done and say, okay, this gave me a pretty good basis or a pretty good understanding. Math in the elementary, middle school, very much the same way. I hesitate to call out some individual things to, sort of protect the innocent. But there are a couple other courses where it was like, well, I've seen what's written there, but I kind of want to step back and I want to look at that a little bit. And in those particular cases, like, yeah, that's logical, that's to be expected, we want that to happen. So in many cases, it's like, good, this gave me a basis. In other cases, it was, this gave me a basis, but as I'm looking at it, I want to adjust a little bit. Absolutely.
Mr. Dio, I had a question, focusing a little bit there on the behind piece and your assessment of this. Thoughts on motivation in the sense of, in looking at people, are you, and it probably varies by the maybe 2 or 3 that it is, like a confusion, procrastination kind of thing, do you think you're noticing? Or is it something maybe that is having the perfect get in the way of the good kind of thing?
So there's one in that category that sticks out very plainly to me as letting the perfect get in the way of the good.
Right.
And I've told her very directly, you're overthinking this.
Right.
Let's get some things down. It's designed to be evolving. It's designed to be living. So having been in the classroom for many years, absolutely, I changed and I adjusted every year. That's to be expected. But you can't let that stand in the way of moving forward. Are there others who I'm like, you're just trying to avoid me? Yes, you are. So yeah, it's, the good news is there's few of them, but we know who they are, and we're on them.
And I wanted to just confirm that I made sure that I heard right. So you were, like I said, just confirmation that you're saying you are looking and judging these milestones of being on pace with stage 2 being complete in 5 years. Is that correct?
Oh yeah, so overall, if I look at the overall milestone, yes, that's what I would look at. But it's a little more nuanced than that because, like, for example, there's a teacher at the high school who they're writing 3 or 4 different classes. So behind for them might be, I need you to get through stage 1, whereas somewhere else it may be, I need you to get through stage 2.
Yeah,
Yeah.
gotcha. Thank you.
Bill, I'm just trying to clarify, make sure I heard. Did you say there's some teachers who are not writing curriculum at the high school or anywhere?
Yes.
And
So like your special ed teachers who are primarily in a co-teaching model, they're not writing standalone curriculum. Life skills is another perfect example. That what they teach changes drastically year to year because their population changes and their needs change. So we wouldn't expect a fixed stage 1, 2, 3 from them.
so they don't they don't put any input into anything?
It's not that they don't have input in it, they're not the teacher responsible for writing the core curricula.
Bucky, what special ed teachers do is they take the curriculum that's written and they make accommodations and adaptations to meet the needs of each student because each student with an IEP may need something different. So they don't write the curriculum per se, but they use the curriculum that's written in each of the classes where they're co-teaching, and their IEP goals and objectives guide what needs to be done with that child, what needs to be instructed.
So like I'll call out Haley Burks at the elementary school is just kind of an example to demonstrate what we mean. So for example, Haley is primarily in 3rd and 4th grade, but based on her student's need, she's pulling up the curriculum that's written for first through fourth. So she's looking at, oh, this child's working on a first grade standard right now, so I'm going to take what the first grade teachers wrote. I can access that and look at that and EduPlan it to know this is kind of the next logical sequence of where those students should be.
Okay. And then my next question is, you said we have new teachers and they're not up to caught up. My question is, the teachers that were there before them, did they not have information either in or pamphlets or in online for them to go with, or did they just didn't do anything and left and didn't give us anything?
No, what they're doing is I'm not saying that the teachers who did something and then left, I'm not saying that they did nothing. And I'm not saying that the new teachers are not up to speed. I'm just saying that having a new teacher come in and be a new teacher in a new building with a new curriculum, that affects the rate at which we get the work done. So for example, I'll use the high school math as an example. By the time she came in, Algebra 2 was done through stage 1. She's teaching through stage 1 this year, so she's using what's printed there, but she's saying, hey, now that I've taught through this once, there's a few modifications that I think I need to make here in order to improve, or in order by what I've been informed of as I've taught the course. The same is true with our 5th grade teachers coming in. Okay, they came in mid-year, they've had some curriculum put together in which they can look at and they can pick up on, but it's their first time teaching it through. So are they going to be ready to jump into a stage 2, planning the assessments, when they're not fully aware of the stage 1 yet? Not yet. That will take time.
Okay, so, but they do have stuff, and I thought this was all part of it, as you go, and the way I was understood it, as we go forward, as we're doing this should always be updated as we go. It's 6 years down the road, 7 years down the road. As it goes, that process should be there, and we should always be updating our curriculum, so we're never back into this point again. Unless
Absolutely.
the state does something crazy and changes all their standards again.
Oh, the state would never do that.
Yeah, so, okay, and then my next thing is, do we have any teachers that aren't doing anything yet? Have not done anything yet?
Very few and far between.
Well, that really didn't answer my question. Do you have any or not? If you do, then we'll talk about that in the executive
Yeah.
session, I think, if we're
That
having
number
a
is greater
problem.
than 0.
Other questions?
All right, thank you.
Going to move to operations, Ms. Grunigal.
Mr. Mortimer? Are you, oh, there you are. I can't see.
Okay, last month, up at our high school, we did replace exhaust fan 5, 17 and 36, and placed them back in operation. We did also work on our front unit heater. It sounds simple enough to replace a motor, but that's an original heater. So of course, the motor is no longer replaceable with an identical motor, so we had to adjust our mounts, adjust the fan cage, and of course, adjust the wiring. But we were able to get that heater up and running also. The return air fan motor and overload did arrive here for rooftop 19, serving the auditorium. I will be installing that motor and overload here shortly. At our middle school, we did replace some piping on UV 14, supplying glycol to the hot water coil for our univent. The unit was isolated, drained, refilled, and insulated. We then added additional glycol to our boiler feed tank. Our main cast iron sewer line serving the length of the first wing in our middle school overflowed when it backed up. We accessed 4 different cleanouts. We opened up our main line. When completed, I inspected the last section of the line with a sewer camera to ensure proper flow. We then cleaned and disinfected several areas under our school. Sunday afternoon, March 16th, I was called by Mr. Griffith at the middle school regarding a significant leak from the roof by our middle school gym out here. When I arrived, I found the connection to the roof drain has failed, basically allowing the cast iron pipe to pivot and fall. I was able to plug the drain. Mr. Griffith and myself did remove the carpets. We cleaned up the floors. And on the following Monday, we disinfected all of our carpets and made the repairs and got the ceiling tile and stuff back in place. We did purchase new hardware, and new wood for the 5 benches outside the middle school. Many of you probably walked by them and probably didn't notice it. But that plastic wood that was on those benches were broken off, they were cracked. New benches were about $5,000. We spent about $1,000 and we replaced all 5 benches, all the wood on all 5 benches out there. Those benches have been there since before I was here, so I'm not sure how old they are, but now we just refurbished them. Like I said, probably many people won't really notice that, but take a look at them. At our elementary, we're having issues with our exterior lighting, serving the soffit and the parking lot lights. The one coil unit being plastic in nature separated. I was able to get it back together to get it working. We did order a new unit, a new relay for that controller. The elementary gym water fountains have been retrofitted and working with a new solenoid. And at our stadium, we contacted Vasco to inspect and repair 9 tears. We had 9 areas of repairs completed, mostly around the letters of our turf. Any questions?
Gary has a video, if anybody would like to look at it, of the water coming down. It is really, it shocked me when he showed me. So that was, it was like a rainfall there. Waterfall, I guess, and really coming in. So we're fortunate that it was caught, or we could have had massive damage on the gym floor and everything else. So and I think Jeff is
Yes.
the one that
I feel
caught that.
terrible that Mr. Griffith was in here working on
Yeah,
a Sunday,
so
but thank
that
goodness he
saved
was
us
here.
a lot, a ton. It caught that.
I actually was just going to ask that why Mr. Griffith was on here on a Sunday. So thank you for working on a Sunday so that we could see that.
It was a very significant 4-inch pipe just dumping water straight down.
The lighting, we're getting, I think, close in the middle school. Is that correct? Is there anything you want to say on that? And then I'll ask some more questions.
Yeah, the lighting in the middle school, as you can see, I have our contraption set up back here. They no longer make a contraption like that. We did repair the piston on it last year. That's what goes over top of our pews, and then we go up inside that to go up and make the lighting repairs. So we're going to change the bulbs on the main beams here. Most of our other lighting in this building has been completed, and we're moving to the elementary next.
Okay, that's the thing that I wanted to mention too, that if we need it on chairing the board for next week to approve going into the elementary, just changing the bulbs out and doing the rewiring. So that's, because that was the question that, what I'm understanding is Jefferson Leak isn't quite sure if they have the go-ahead to do that or not. So that's my question here. And right now, if he's available, I think we get it and get it knocked off. Gary had said he could do some of it, but with what we have here to do, I think there's enough for his guys. And I think also that underneath that wing down there, there's enough for your guys to be doing that type of work down there. So that's.
Is there a contract approved for that, or do we need a contract for the elementary?
No, we have, he's doing that cost plus.
Right,
He already
so-
gave it. So it's just a matter of if it's okay
Yeah,
with the board.
I don't
That
think it needs
exists
to come
right
back
now.
to the board. I think we had already said to
Yeah.
complete that project with the bulbs
Yeah,
at the discount
okay.
when we got them, so I
So
don't,
then you have to, make sure that they're aware of that they can go ahead. Because if we let him go, I don't know when we can get him back. And with, I don't know about anybody else, but you can comment. I think the new lights in this building made 1,000% improvement on where we're at. So we're trying to do stuff as most efficiently and financially responsible as we can to improve the building. So,
You'll see the difference in the library when you step into there.
yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks as always.
Thank you, Gary, as always.
Action agenda. Approve release time, student and staff travel. Sarah Miller, gifted coordinator, Connect STEM Challenge, April 9th. BVIU cost substitute, will use school van. Brendan Wyattrack, high school computer tech business teacher and robotics club sponsor, Bots IQ Finals competition, April 11th, 12th. Penn West, California. University cost substitute, will use school van. Approve adjudication for disciplinary hearing held on March 31st, 2025. Signatures required. Approve agreement with Talk Time Speech Therapy. Approve agreement with Talk Time Speech Therapy LLC for the provision of speech language services, cost $90 per hour. Accept resignations. Accept the following resignations. Carol Brown, part-time custodian, effective March 20th, 2025. Tina Ruckert, full-time custodian for purposes of retirement, effective May 30th, 2025. Michelle Porterfield, part-time custodian for purposes of retirement, effective May 30, 2025. John Karcher, head varsity girls basketball coach, effective March 24th, 2025. Approved purchase of 6 Series service system. Approved purchase of the 6 Series service system for the high school cafeteria, cost $121,045. Excuse me. Approved head of maintenance. Approve Kevin Lewarchik as head of maintenance, $2,000 annual stipend, prorated for the 24-25 school year. Clearances on file. Item 7, approve change of effective date for retirement. Approve change of effective date of retirement for Sarah Ruther, full-time custodian, from June 19th, 2025 to April 21st, 2025. Approve coaches. Approve the following coaches. Salaries according to contract. Amanda Varelli, volunteer assistant middle school softball coach, clearances on file. Anthony Marsilio, assistant varsity football coach, pending receipt of updated clearances. Approve acceptance and distribution of grant. Approve acceptance and distribution of the Buffalo Wild Wings Foundation grant in the amount of $2,500 to the Freedom Athletic Department. Any questions on items 1 through 9?
I just have a quick question. Who was the one that applied for this Buffalo Wild Wings Foundation grant? Was it Mr. Badamo? Mr. Mott? Oh, okay. Well, thank you very much, because I never heard of that one before. So, I mean, I know it's not a ton, but I'm sure it'll help out. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, again, I think we all appreciate that. We can't thank you if we don't know it, if it's not on the agenda when someone does that. So we all thank you as a board here, I'm sure of that. The other question that I have is, did we have our pre-meeting with the head of maintenance that he?
Yes, we did, Mr. Inman.
Okay.
And when we spoke to him, he said, absolutely, he understands. He said, in fact, he lives so close that whenever he and his wife and children go out, they always drive by to make sure the schools are looking good. So no issues there.
Oh, okay. And then I would hope that, again, now with this, that we notify the whole staff that his position, what his authority is, so there's no question with any staff members. You know, and maybe we need to reiterate too, we have head custodians, and I think everybody needs to know that when Gary gives them an order, or direction, I shouldn't say order that tough, but he gives them direction to do, and they give it, that they need to you know, I think everybody's doing it, but if there's any question about that, then we just
Absolutely.
need to confirm that. That's all.
Any other questions or comments? I'll look for motion to approve items 1 through 9. And a second.
I'll second.
Roll call.
Emily Evans,
Yes?
Karen Geibel,
Yes.
Monica Grunigal. Yes. Jen Hill,
Yes for all items but number 2. I abstain.
Gerald Inman,
Yes.
Michelle Michia, yes. Leslie Rizzi, John Tatko.
Yes, except number 2.
Motion is approved. Anyone have any, that brings us to the end of our agenda. Anyone have any other questions or comments? If not, I'll ask the board and the administration to join us in executive session to discuss personnel matters, curriculum status, discipline matters, staff positions, and then student matters, special education. Can I have a motion to adjourn to executive session? Thank you. I said administration.